Working in ZBrush, we're able to create metahumans that are a much higher caliber than the standard metahumans. This is a character I sculpted in ZBrush. I was able to do a much higher detailed skin sculpt here. I was able to give him scars, asymmetrical wrinkles, custom stuff, and just push a lot more detail into this mesh. Okay, so this is just one of the many things that we can do once we get our mesh into ZBrush. I was also able to make my own custom MetaHuman hair. I have a tutorial for that. And I was able to make these clothes in Marvelous Designer. All right, so I'm going to end up doing a tutorial for that as well. All right, but we can push this MetaHuman design, just get a much, a much more customized and much more highly detailed MetaHuman, or just a very weird MetaHuman too, like this. So I created this Modoc. This is my Meta Modoc, and I did everything I've showed you in this tutorial. I created this. This body is actually a MetaHuman body. Well, it's not a MetaHuman body, but it's got the MetaHuman body rig. So if I go into my body, I can see if I go to my control rig, I've got my MetaHuman control rig. So I'm able to create extremely customizable metahumans. And it all starts with that beginning point in ZBrush. So we've also got this face is MetaHuman controlled face. There's my control board. I think it's loading. Oh, I'm gonna hit the G key. So some of the blend shapes are a little squirrely with the size of his face, but this is a fully controllable MetaHuman. So there we go. It all starts though with taking your mesh to ZBrush and then sending it, sculpting on it and sending it back, which I will show you. Alright, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to send your MetaHuman from ZBrush after you've been working on it back to Maya. We're going to split it back into its correct parts. We are going to transfer our vertex order from the correct MetaHuman that we sent from Unreal, and then we'll send all of our meshes back to Unreal. So this is a way to create your custom MetaHumans in Unreal. Now, I've got this solid mesh that we created in this tutorial, and I will be, since it's a solid mesh, now you could also have sent two separate meshes, or if you're just using a head, you can send the head mesh too. If you're just using the head, make sure you send the eyes and teeth, because if you move the eyes, you want the eyeballs to move to make your custom MetaHuman. You're going to need the eyes, teeth, and head if you're going to make a custom head. So anyway, we can do, from Maya to ZBrush, you can edit just the head if you'd like. I made a Meta Modoc that is just, I just used the MetaHuman head and then I transferred the MetaHuman rig to a custom body. So yeah, there's a million different ways we can do this. We merged our body so we could sculpt across it. So I did a little bit of sculpting. I didn't do a ton, but I have sculpted across this line. If I hit Shift F, I can see my polygroups. Now, what I want to do, I mean, I don't have to do this, but if you're working in ZBrush a lot, You can split this into polygroups with your UVs. You can auto group with UVs. And that's going to allow you to have your UV groups. So I can see where my torso geometry is, and I can see where my bust geometry is. So yeah, if you need any of this, it also helps because we have the mouth bag and eye bag separated by UVs as well. So if you ever need to isolate them and sculpt in them, you can do that. This also works while you've got your MetaHuman in ZBrush. You can work on, since we set it all over as an FBX, you can sculpt on the eyes. So you can change the size of the eyes. You can change the proportion of the eyes. And it does go decently extreme. I've made some pretty anime styled, very large eye characters. So you have to edit your blend shapes, but you can change the size of the eyes pretty dramatically. And you can also change the teeth. You can sculpt on your teeth. You can give yourself vampire teeth. You can turn your character into a werewolf. You can make a tooth disappear if you need it. If you need a missing tooth, you can kind of just smooth it up into the gums and then paint over it with this same red gum and make, you can give your character huge gaps in your teeth, anything you'd want, really big front teeth. So yeah, there's a million different things we can do now that we have our character in ZBrush. So this character is completely merged. I've done some sculpting across this line that would have been impossible to sculpt across if we didn't have this geometry merged. So now I want to send this character back to ZBrush. So I've divided this character quite a bit to get some of this detail that I wanted to sculpt onto him. So I added a little bit of veins. I kind of edited his just a little bit here and there. So another thing I can do though is I can send this high poly sculpt over to Substance and bake for my normal maps, which I do when I'm making my custom metahumans. And I've got another tutorial I'll be coming out with soon that I'm going to show you how to transfer your texturing XYZ high poly skin pore and skin texture maps. I'll show you how to transfer those onto a metahuman, and that will use this same mesh. So I am ready now that I've sculpted this. I do have the high poly. I don't need the high poly for this. I do need it for texture baking and Substance, but I don't need it for this part of my project. So I'm going to go to my lowest subdivision. I've already saved my project, and I want to export as an FBX so that I can just send everything back as is in the same place. I'm going to make sure all of my subtools are visible. Then I can go into Z plugin and go to my FBX export import. I can say visible. It's going to be an ASCII. I've got it as FBX 2020, and I have my normal smoothed. I'm not going to embed my texture maps. Those aren't necessary. And I'm smoothing my normals. I do this for baking in Substance, but you can smooth your normals in Maya too if you have any normal issues. So I'm just going to say export. And we've got our merged head and body that we did in the previous tutorial. So I'm going to say this one, instead of merged head body 2, I'm going to say merged head body, and I'm just going to say from ZB to make sure I know it's from ZBrush. All right. So ZBrush is going to take a little bit, not too long though. It doesn't have a lot of information. All right, so now I have Maya open. If you don't have Maya open, just open the scene that you created in your MetaHuman, your character assembler. Once you do this character assembler process, it is going to automatically create a Maya binary file. So you can just go to your open scene, and wherever you saved it, if you remember we said this was MetaToot, it's just going to be called scene MB. So you can open that up. All right. So yeah, this was in that folder that I created that was called MetaToot. So once you build that, it's going to give you scene MB. Now you can save a copy or a new version just to make sure you don't overwrite this. If you ever do overwrite this, you can just rebuild the MetaHuman and it'll rebuild the scene and overwrite this scene MB2. So if I saved something accidentally, I can rebuild this MetaHuman. So yeah. I don't need to open this. I've already got it open. And as you can see, I've got my MetaHuman that is working. All right. We want to make sure that we don't have that merged MetaHuman that broke the rig, right? We want to make sure we have the actual MetaHuman that comes right out of Unreal. It's important that we have that because it's split and it has the proper vertex order. If we break our vertex order, all of our blend shapes are going to be broken and none of this is going to work, okay? So now I'm going to say File. Now, before I do that, actually, I've got my display layers over here, and I've got my LOD head LOD 0 layer, and I've got my body LOD. So I can hide those visibilities. I'm just going to put my lights. These are my lights right here. I'm going to put them on a display layer. I can double click it. Just say yikes. Lights. I just like to put LYR for layer. Save. So I can hide my lights if I don't want to be, selecting them. And for some reason they didn't get added. That's fine. I can select them again and just right click this layer and say add selected objects. And there we go. Now when I hit my visibility, they show and disappear. And then I want to grab all of my controls, and this is actually geometry, and I want to add those to a new display layer too. So I'm going to say create a new layer and assign objects. It's this little circle right there. And we'll just call that rig CTRL LY control layer. Okay. So now when I'm selecting my MetaHuman, I get head layer 0, LOD 0 layer is the one, and then body LOD 0. Those are the two we're going to be working with. All right, so I'm ready to import my So we've got MetaToot. I want to go up one and so it saved a bunch of textures with me when it saved all of these textures when I exported that FBX. So things look a little bit full. We don't need those. I'm not going to delete them right now though. And I did tell it not to write the textures, so it's interesting that it did. But I've got merged head and body from Zbrush. That is the one that I named correctly, so let's import that. Okay. So let's hide LOD. Need that. And let's MetaToot. I think there might be a naming issue. So when we're importing this FBX, it's got some of the same names. So it is importing the teeth, but since I've got this saliva LOD mesh, the FBX is holding those names. So why don't I'm going to rename these. Okay. So we're going to just make this a little bit shorter. With this selected, I'll say rename, and this is going to be saliva from ZB. All right. We'll rename this. This is going to be teeth from ZB. So I'm glad I went through this because it's good for you to see these. Since they have the same name, the FBX is having an issue with them. I'm going to say I left from ZB. eye right. And finally, since this is head LOD, we're just going to rename it merged body from ZB. And there we go. Now we're not going to have any naming conflicts with the FBX file. Let's go ahead and go back to our Z plugin and our FBX export import, and we will send this out. So let's hit export. And we can go ahead and we can overwrite that merged body 01, yes. All right, export it again, beautiful. Now, just in case I've got any, no, I think this will be okay. Let's try and import it and see if we broke it or not. Import, and we've got our merged head body from Zbrush, import that. All right, there we go. So now we see we've got, now MetaToot was the one that came in that was the previous name of our teeth. I'll just delete that. And now we can see also we have our overlapping geometry with the body, and it's slightly different because I did sculpt on it, right? Now the great thing about these display layers is I can hide my head LOD mesh 0 and my body. So these are the originals and these are the new ones, right? You can tell it's the new one because it's a merged mesh. So all of my new meshes are right here in my outliner. If you don't have your outliner sitting right here, you can go to your Windows, Outliner's right there. You can pop it up, put it wherever you want. I just have mine docked here. Okay, so we want to split this body, and we want to split it in the exact same place that it is split on the original MetaHuman. And it's kind of hard to find. It's like, where is that seam? Okay, I can do a few different things to see that seam. All right, so I can go to my mesh and I can go to my display and go polygons, go down to my custom polygon display, and open my little tab, and I can say border edges. And it's not going to give me anything because I merged this. But I can say texture borders and apply, and then I'm going to be able to see all of my UV map seams. So I know that that border edge right here is going to be where my head splits from my body. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it in a much easier way is just to use our UVs. So I'm going to go UV editor, and I've got all my UVs just sitting right here. And so to split these, we want to use the faces. So with my UVs open, I can just right click and go down to face, and then just drag my selection in this entire 0 to 1, and it's going to select all of them. I'll turn my checker off. It's going to select all of the faces that are connected to the head, and now I can just say mesh tools. Is it mesh tools? Let's edit mesh. Okay, and I can say, where's my split? Extract. So this extract is going to pop out all the faces that I have selected. So I'll say extract. Okay, it's going to give me this weird gizmo. I can just click off of that, and now when I click this mesh, it's perfectly separated. It's created a group here, all right? And I just need to delete my history with those, and so I can go object mode. But now I've got my exact same MetaHuman UVs. I've got both my body and my head split. Perfect. Okay. All right, so if I grab this body, I'm going to say edit, delete by type history, and I'll just hit the G key to do the same on this. Now they're still in this group. That's fine. I can hold my middle mouse button and just drag them, now that I've selected them, out of the group. Or I can hit, I can go and ungroup them too. And I can just delete this group that was created. So polysurface 1 is going to be my new custom head. And so one of the most important things with these metahumans is that you do not disturb these UVs. So I've still got my perfect UVs. I've got the exact same topology on my head and body. I can say head from, let's say, MetaHuman head. And then we're going to say MetaHuman body. All right. So if we tried to send these over to ZBrush right now, we would have an issue. We need to send the exact same mesh that came out of our DCC exporter from Unreal, okay? Which means we need to send our vertex order. All right, and I'm going to hide this control layer. I do not need to see that right now. So I want to select all of these meshes, make sure that all of their translation, rotation, and scale information are all correct. Right? We want zeros on our translate and rotates. We want ones on our scale. I'm just going to move these guys over because I can always zero out that translate and get them right back to where they need to be. And now I can show my head LOD 0 and my body LOD 0. So vertex order is something that needs to match, otherwise your blend shapes won't work. So I can show you an example of that. I just moved them. If I click this body and I click this body and I say deform and I create a blend shape, I can go into my windows, go animation editors, and go to my shape editor. I can go down to where I just created this. So MetaHuman Toot Body. This is the blend shape I just created. Watch what happens when I do this. Oh, it's chaos. The reason it's chaos is because these do not have matching vertex orders, okay? So I'm just going to grab that blend shape and throw it in the trash can, delete it, it's gone. All right, so now we need to make sure that these both have the same vertex orders, the body and the head. The teeth, the saliva, and the eyes, we didn't change anything about their vertex order, so they're fine. It's just the head and body, okay? So I want to send my vertex order from this correct MetaHuman, this body LOD 0, and this head LOD 0. I want to send the vertex order from here to this mesh, okay? All right, so we can go to modify, and we can say, is it modify? It's been a while since I've used this. Oh, it's mesh, transfer vertex order, right there. So it's in mesh, transfer vertex order, okay? So I'm going to do that. It says select the first, second, and third vertex of a single polygon on the source mesh. So this is my source mesh. I'm going to click it. I'm going to zoom in and find, I like to find these 5-pointed stars. So these are right on the inside of the left peg. I'm going to click the center of the star, and I'm going to go one up, and then I'm going to go one over from there. All right, now it says, now select the first, second, and third vertex on the corresponding mesh. Okay, so I'm going to select this one, center of the star, up to the left and up. It's going to calculate, and now I've got proper vertex orders. So I'm going to hit Q. I'll just go back to object mode. So now let's try and run that, my goodness, my brain, my blend shape again. So I'll click this mesh that had the broken vertex order and this mesh, and now we can say deform blend shape. Let's go into our animation editor, shape editor, and now let's try. Okay, see, and you can see the changes I made on the sculpt, but now it's working like a proper blend shape because we have the right vertex order. Okay, beautiful. All right, so let's do the same for the head. I am going to go to mesh, and we are going to go to transfer vertex order. We're going to select the head. All right, and I can do any number of places. There's a 5-pointed star down here that looks pretty easy. I could also do this cheek. I just like the stars. They're easier to recognize instead of kind of finding your way through all of these polygons. But you know what? I like this star down here, it looks much easier. So select the center of the star, then go up one, and then go over one. Okay, now my corresponding mesh. There we go, center of the star, up one, over one. So you always have to pick them in the same order. If you do it wrong, it's okay. You can transfer the order again. So just deselect all of your vertices and then try it again. Okay. So now we have the right, so I can click my head mesh, shift select this head mesh, go to deform, create a blend shape, and we can go into our animation editor. All right, here's blend shape 2, MetaHuman head. All right, so now you can see these are matching. I'll turn this one up. So the meshes correspond perfectly. You can't see the seam, so you can kind of see the little bit of sculpture stuff that I did. Gave him a little more bulk. Changed a few things in his anatomy. Okay, so we are going to send the sculpted mesh that we did in ZBrush with the proper vertex order to Unreal. All right. So I can hide my head LOD0 and my body LOD0. They were just using them to transfer a vertex order. I'll grab this mesh. And I'll just zero out my translate, make sure I'm back in my origin. I'm going to say edit and just delete by type history to make sure I clear any of that history. And I want to send all of these, okay? Now I can go in and no, that's fine. I want to make sure each of them has a material slot, but they do. So just make sure, because when you go into Unreal, these will all each have their own material slot. So I'm going to select all of this geometry, my teeth, my eyes, everything. And I'm going to say export selection. I'm still in my MetaHuman. It's going to be an FBX. This is going to be and I'm going to say from Maya to UE. I'm just making it really easy on myself. Now I could custom name this too. This mesh is actually going to be that long. So I could name it my character and then just say from Maya, or, just name it the character. Let's just name it the character, actually. I'm going to say MetaHuman underscore 01. All right. And it doesn't matter if I export my animation stuff with this, my deformed skins and all that jazz. For now, if I'm exporting a rig, I do need to make sure that I have deformed skins, blend shapes, all that good stuff. Okay. But it doesn't matter because I don't have a rig. So this animation can be unchecked. If you're ever having problems, I think you can restore the FBX export. And you know what? My file format, I'm going to go FBX 2020. All right, so let's go ahead and export selection into the right folder. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So there we go. That was nice and fast. So now I can go into Unreal. I already have the scene open that we had created, right? And in my content folder, I'll just create a new folder. So I'm just right-clicking in my content. It's going to say from ZBrush. All right. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to right-click and just say import to current folder. I could drag and drop the FBX there as well. Okay. And now we're going to say it's MetaHuman. MetaHuman, come on. it's just Meta 201, yeah? That's a target. So the target is our texture file. Oh, I need to be in my MetaTube folder. I'm silly. It's going to be right there. So it's just going to say 3D object. Here we go. We can say open. Okay, so it gives us some options. Use source name of asset. I could say yes. I could say no. I could say no and rename it right now. So if I said no, I could just change the name. It is not. It doesn't have a scalable mesh, and I do want it all. Okay. So we're good. It says import LODs. I don't need that. And I don't need it to bake meshes either, since it's only, there are no LODs. Import sockets, that's fine, I don't have any. And import static meshes, yes. All right, let's go ahead and import. Oh, I grabbed all those textures. I thought I told it not to. Oh, it's imported as a normal map. Okay, okay. So I've got a bunch of redundant textures now, which is fine, but it's just going to increase the size of, and that's a material instance. Interesting. Okay. I'll leave those for now. I've got my eyes, my teeth, my body, my head, all that jazz, and it looks like they're flipped. So let's grab this, and it is flipped. Okay, so I think that my Y up was incorrect. So I can go back to Maya, that's fine. So I've got them all selected. I'm just gonna hit my E key for my rotate. And I can start to rotate, and I can see my rotate X and just go 90. And I know I want to rotate up this way just because the way they were sitting on the ground. And now I can say modify freeze transformations. And so that's going to just turn my rotation back into 0. And now I'll say edit, delete by type history, just to make sure it's extra clean. And we'll export this one more time. Now I want it to be the exact same name, okay? I'm going to keep it as the same name and export selection again. And yes, I want to replace it. And this is the beautiful thing about Unreal is now I just edited this. I go into Unreal and I can right click these and I can just say re-import. And I'll grab all of these meshes. I'm shift selecting them. I'll just right click and say re-import. That's going to do all of them. So that's one thing I love is once you save a file, if you need to edit it back in Maya, don't close everything just yet. If you can leave multiple stuff open, it's always a bummer closing Maya and then finding out that you need to reopen it to edit something. So I've found that at least for this first import process, it's kind of nice to keep everything open. Okay, so now I'm looking at my display meshes. They're all right side up. That is beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to say File. Let's just save all now that I've imported everything. And let's go to our content. So now I can create a new custom MetaHuman from all of these meshes, right? And when you're creating a custom MetaHuman, you need your eyes, your head, and your body. And how long is this going to take? I'll be right back once this loads. So once you're in your MetaHuman Creator, you can go to your head and you can go to conform right here. And now you can grab your mesh. So I'll just search head. What was it named? Let's go into our MetaTube from Zbrush, and it was Mesh NCL4. Interesting. All right. So I'll say NCL. All right, I can see that that's my head. Now it's going to ask for my teeth. Man, I wish it wouldn't rename these. I'm going to have to figure out what happened with that. So that's going to be NCL. All right, NCL1 teeth are mesh. NCL2 and 3 are left and right eyes, I think. So you need your eye left. But I don't know. I assume 1 is left. And then mesh is the teeth. All right, so I've got my teeth, oh no, NCL3 is the other eye. Okay. So I can say conform. So another thing when you're doing this conform is you want to make sure you can have none if you've got a head that's very odd and you don't want it to move. You can say scale and rotation and translation too. Okay. So I can say conform, and it's gonna, so you can see it changed. So now I could say none here and then conform, and it's going to be the same size as it was again. So I can go to the body, and I can say conform, and I can say from template, and I can grab the, what's our body meshes name? NCL5. Okay. There we go. And it's asking for the head mesh too, so let's just do it. All right, target mesh is in MetaHuman A pose. Yes, correct. Auto rigger help joints. Conform. There we go. So an auto rigger helper, I think, allows you to transform your mesh into the MetaHuman A pose. Okay. But now you can see this has that that muscularity that I sculpted in. So there we go. Okay, so you can do a lot with this though. Okay, this can go very extreme. All right. Like I showed you in the beginning, yeah, it can go really extreme. We can push these metahuman boundaries really far. I mean, the proportions of this face are really far outside of the extremes, and they're still, they're still working. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and for my next tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to transfer any kind of scan data or texturing XYZ or any really high fidelity human skin textures. I'm going to show you how to transfer them onto a MetaHuman. So hope you stick around for that. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. Thanks for watching through to the end with me. Have an awesome week.